If you provide value, they want to keep you. The only time they don't want to keep you and you're valuable is if they don't have the money. I think if you're about this contracting life, it's about deciding that you want a certain autonomy or you want a certain lifestyle. You're willing to have both the pros and the cons. If you're on it and you're ready to be about that life because you're trying to create a different type of career, then contracting's for you. But if you're not sure, then don't do contracting. It's all about mindset. It has to be about mindset. You need to understand the game, i.e. what camp you sit in. You need to understand the market. And you need to understand what you're prepared to do in terms of your boundaries. So let's just say you are a student, you've just graduated, you're between 20, 25, let's say. Should you jump into contracting? You could, but know that you're not going to be, doing some high-flying job. It's probably going to be an officer role. It's probably going to be a support role. It's probably going to be something centered around that. Now, will you be making quite a lot of money relative to what you were doing before? Probably, yeah, you would. But it would mean that your sole goal is to make sure that you learn as much as possible. You get the accreditation, certifications or qualifications or experience and package it in such a way that takes you to the next level.
Talk to us about what is the portfolio career and how do we build it?
The point being made is it's understanding your skill sets, your experiences and your expertise and making sure that you maximize your growth potential, whether that is money, well-being, sense of purpose, whatever it is. So that essentially is what the portfolio career describes.
I do think nowadays that, listen, attention is currency and being visible is very, very important, but it's the right type of attention, okay? And I think we often think that when there's a lot about personal branding, we just mean social media. Well, I use the word now presence because of you, because that's just one component of the cake.
Yes.
As you described it, your 4 C's.
I always say this, commit to a cause. Commitment defines discipline. Cause is rendering meaning. This is what we've been discussing this whole time. So if you have a sense of discipline, i.e. routine or whatever it may be against the goal, and you have a deep-seated meaning because you don't want to live the life you lived before, that context that I was talking about, then you'll commit to a course. And I'm not saying this is easy, but it's nicer to hear inspiring, encouraging, motivational stuff because in some ways, sometimes it unlocks you to create innovation and creativity.
Welcome to today's episode. I've got to be honest with you guys. I'm really excited about this episode and I'm going to tell you why before I introduce our guest for today. If you're somebody who really wants to take your career to the next level, and I'm not in terms of what you're earning, and I'm not talking about 50K guys, let's talk 6 figures. This conversation is probably for you. If you're somebody who stuck in the 9-to-5 rut, how can I just want to be able to do things a little bit more on my own terms. Maybe you're thinking about contracting. This conversation is definitely for you. If you're somebody who is thinking about growing and increasing your presence, and I say presence, not personal branding, because there is a difference, which I actually found out through watching this gentleman's channel. This conversation is definitely for you. And I'm talking about a gentleman called Michael Tabirade. And I am very honored that he's given me and you guys as viewers his time this evening. So who is Michael? And I guess the things that I'm going to say, they don't really give him enough credit for how much he's achieved, but I'm going to try and give you guys a little bit of a taster before we get into the nitty-gritty of the conversation. Michael is an achievement coach. He's a public speaker. He's somebody who helps people in terms of confidence. He has a fledgling career and he's built his reputation by helping ambitious people to secure highly paid roles. He's helped people to transition from their 9-to-5 into contracting, giving them the tools to take that leap of faith. This is a term that I learnt actually from his channel and his material, the portfolio career. And I think it's something that's going to be will become increasingly more important, especially in the United Kingdom. Michael is also very, very good at helping people to build their brand. These are some of the ways that Michael has built his fantastic reputation. But I'm going to go a little bit further. He's not just a coach. He's a guide for mastery. He's a guide for ambition. And most importantly, he's a guide for self-development, satisfaction in your personal life, as well as your career, because ultimately that's what we do it for. So I am very honored today to be joined by this gentleman to my left-hand side. Michael, thank you for joining me.
Bruv, hey, slow down. Julien, that was immense. I'm not going to lie to you. So yeah, I appreciate that, bro.
I
done your homework.
I really did do my homework, and I didn't even touch the surface of some of your other achievements. You know, you are an author. I read about how he was inspired by the book, The Alchemist, but I'm not going to speak too much. Usually on podcasts, people say to their guests, tell me a little bit about yourself. But we're not going to start the conversation like that. I'm going to reword this, rephrase it in a slightly different way. What sparked your journey into coaching and personal development?
Interesting question. Great question. Do you know, for me, it's always about context. And context defines my Northern Star. So I always say, in order for you to reach your destination, you have to be able to make certain decisions that determine your trajectory in life. And those decisions are determined by your values. So values are things that you deem as important to you. So in my mind, the things that really created the values instilled in me right now is context. Meaning, my mother and father's background, where they've come from, my culture, my upbringing, the hardships that came with that. And so all of these things collated an idea of, I need to do something bigger and bolder than what my mother and father have left behind. You know, I'm very grateful for what they've done, and I will always be grateful. But in this instance, I need to raise everyone up. And so I've put it upon myself, maybe crazy, but I put it upon myself to create that pressure to achieve. It's always about achievement for me. And so to answer your question, it's really centered around my background and my upbringing. You know, I've come from a household where both parents are Ghanaian, very humble beginnings. None of them were earning like crazy amounts of money at all. You know, there were times and situations where same meals every single day. I'm talking about basic meals. Do you know what I mean? You know, but really it was the resilience and drive and the examples and ideals they instilled in me that has embedded and infused the person that you see today.
Wow. So you're somebody who really has some real purpose and intent behind everything that you do. And that's underpinned by your upbringing, those values. Something that probably is maybe missing a little bit in society today. And I say that because that what you said there kind of resonates with me. When I was growing up, I spent a lot of time with my grandparents because of course my parents were working. And we used to go to the local town centre, the Whitgift Centre. Yeah. My grandma would put on her best blouse and her best pearls, and my granddad would always put on his shoes. Okay. And whenever we was out, we'd stop every 2 minutes and we'd be talking to people within the community. And I always knew that whenever I stepped outside, I had to be on my best behavior because I wasn't just representing myself, but I was representing my family. And you best believe by the time I got home, if anything happened, any bad behavior, I was getting licks by my dad, my mom, my grandparents.
That's why I'm this color.
Honestly.
The licks were real.
and the thing that really inspires me and still, sticks with me is that every time I drive past West Croydon, and my grandparents were from the Windrush generation. And my granddad and my family still own a home in West Croydon, a townhouse, 7 bedrooms.
Come on.
Now, you know, in those times, how difficult that was to achieve. And that always, when I drive past, inspires me, because I'm like, what they had to go through and do to give me the opportunities that I have now, I can't afford to let those up.
100%.
And there's a West Indian cricketer, very famous, I'm sure everyone knows, called Michael Holding, who, if you haven't, please do purchase his book. And he wrote his book off the back of a speech he made during COVID times on Sky Sports. And people were like, wow, your speech was so powerful, and during the time with George Floyd. And funny enough, I was given this book actually by one of my clients who is actually from the white demographics. And he said to me, read this book. And he spoke about when Trident was originally set up in the 1980s. And it was a task force designed to just stop black men who were innocent, who were just congregating. He talks about, in the book, people of color who represented United Kingdom in war, but their plaque is in Lambeth. It's not in central London. So all of these things really stuck with me. Again, Christopher Columbus didn't actually discover the Americas. That was already discovered by people of color, black people. And so when you talk about your values, your culture, your roots, I think we have a duty to utilize their past, their struggles, but the opportunity they gave us, and use it as a platform to springboard us to the next level. So very important.
I just want to chime in there, because obviously you're talking about stuff I love talking about.
Sorry. Yeah.
So you know, in other words, context derives meaning. And so in order for us to have a pursuit or goal, it needs to be worthwhile. And so whatever we attribute meaning to is what enables us to have the energy to move forward. So I'm reading this book at the moment called The Courage to be Disliked. And it's between a philosopher and a student having a conversation. And so they're talking about all these different, you know, psychologists, Adler, Freud, and Carl Jung. But the philosopher talks about Adler. And so this student is talking to the fact that his friend is having troubles because of his past. But the philosopher's like, well, he's choosing that. That sounds so painful to hear for some, because we've been in situations where we've received trauma, we've been dealt a bad hand, etc., etc. And this guy's saying it's our choice. But essentially, the message behind what he's actually saying is, yes, those things happened, but in some part of your subconscious, it is your goal to define that narrative. So this really tells us that we have choice in our lives if we choose to see it that way. Now, it doesn't mean that things just change straight away. But what it does mean is that you do have the power. So it's Viktor Frankl who once said, between stimulus and response, there is a choice. And in that choice, there is a gap with the power for you to decide. I'm paraphrasing, but he's saying we've got power. Even if the consequence is crazy or wrong or doesn't feel comfortable, we still have that choice. And so this is all to say, context, meaning, it helps to shape purpose. And society right now has dulled us down so much where that sense of meaning and purpose is dissipated. We don't feel it. We feel flat. We feel lethargic. We can't be bothered. AI is we're relying on AI to do all this different stuff because we're looking for something to do it for us. But really what we need is that activation, and that is found in purpose.
Wow, fantastic. So you talked about purpose there. I used to work for the NHS. This gentleman, don't be fooled. Let me tell you guys, this gentleman is responsible for leading multi-million pounds tech transformations within the NHS. When I worked at NHS, it was bands 5 to 7 in terms of physiotherapy, you know, when I was service lead. But it appears that you created your own band, maybe band 14 or band 14 or 15. So that kind of salary bracket is off the Richter scale. But what I want you guys to understand, for our audience who are not from the United Kingdom, who may be listening from abroad, it's a lot of money. But he was able to generate a pay bracket. Everyone's striking, but Michael, he wasn't striking. He's never striking. And maybe that ties into his point about purpose. So that leads me on to my first question. Got a stat for you. from YouGov. That was published last year, around summer, I believe May or June 2024. Only 4% of the UK population earn over 70K.
Interesting. Okay.
I've got some more stats right now to give it a little bit more context about the conversation we're having. Statistics published this week show that the UK unemployment rate is 4.7%, up 0.5% compared to this time last year when we had the general election when it was running at 4.2%.
Yeah.
So what that's really telling us, and for reference, guys, this is in the United Kingdom. For what that's telling us is that the job market is rough. It's tough right now. And is this the time to start thinking about contracting?
I hear it.
Wages are pretty stagnant. Maybe during COVID times, I know maybe in the tech sector and things are still fairly healthy per se, but a senior analyst would be definitely on 75K plus. Now some jobs are saying, hey, maybe only 60 to 70K is the bracket. And I'm going, huh? Since when? Try it up. Just try it up. Heat wave is not just happening in terms of the weather. Heat wave's happening in the job market. So, Michael, first and foremost, can you explain to our viewers, for anyone that doesn't understand, what is contracting?
Yeah. So the best way to describe it is you're an off payroll worker. You're not on the payroll within the organization. And essentially a contractor comes in on let's say, a temporary basis to fill a gap. Now, I'm saying it this way because there are multiple different types of contractors. So the first typical type is the inside of IR35 contractor. What does that even mean? Let me break it down. IR35 stands for Inland Revenue 35. So it was a regulation that was stipulated, I think, in the 90s. I'll need to check that. That essentially described the type of tax attributed to an inside of IR35 worker. In other words, in simple English, it is somebody who is taxed like an employee, but working for a client on a temporary basis. So, for example, you could come in to be a business analyst, for, let's say, Microsoft. You'd still have your 9 to 5, you would still report into someone, but the difference is you're off payroll and you come through an agency. Now, you don't have to commit to certain cultural attributes within the organization. You may not necessarily have to report certain things to them, but you're in some way still, I would say, you're still a contractor, but you still have employee elements to you.
Right.
Now, the outside of IR35 contractor is somebody who is taxed via a business. So usually a limited company. And so the difference there is that these individuals are actually consultants. Outside of IR35 is a fancy term in the UK that we call an independent consultant. And so they come in with a specific proposal, a specific brief, a specific set of deliverables. And therefore it's different. So they're more strategic by nature. They may have more of a niche expertise by nature. They have to fulfill 5 key criteria. Some of them being, and we'll see if I remember all of them, you have to provide your own resources. You have to be able to, or you can subcontract your own individuals. You have to pay for your own expenses. You don't need to report to anyone specifically. So there's a whole bunch of stuff attributed around outside of IR35. And so within the contracting space, for veterans within a game, there's a lot of people that don't like the inside game because, there was a time pre-2017 where, you could be a project manager on Friday working specifically for an organization, quit, become a contractor, and be earning twice the amount. But from 2017, they introduced different IR35 rules, which meant there was a differentiation between outside of IR35 and inside of IR35. And so that became political because it meant that actually the government was raking in more money because more people were taxed under national insurance, income tax, I forget the other tax, or the standard tax that an employee would be taxed. And actually the pool for those who were becoming outside of IR35 contractors was becoming smaller. And so to answer your question, that is what a contractor is, with some nuance, of course.
There's a very, very important question that I need you to answer.
Go on.
Do I still get Bupa cover?
That's a great question.
Do I still get Bupa?
So I'm going to answer that seriously. So if you are an inside IR35 contractor and you've come through a agency, then there are some instances where you are covered for specific things. This may look like a form of health cover of some sorts. This may be the ability to, contact GP at certain hours. This may be discount. So there are some things you can get, even a pension you can get. But when it's outside, you are completely like on your own. You're your own fund manager, your own financial advisor, all of that kind of stuff there. But the beauty with that is that you get to control what you have in your life. And some people may see that as a scary thing, but really that forces you to learn. That forces you to be in control. And that forces you to understand, so that if you do get a finance manager or advisor, you come with more equipped questions. You're more resourceful by nature.
So how do you decide whether to opt for being inside or outside the IR35?
That's a great question. It really comes down to mindset. So mindset is defined as the established set of attitudes that one has. And I say this to say, people will typically come into the space and say, I'm just going to go for outside of IR35 contracts. But you haven't even looked at the market. So you spoke about how the job market is at 4.7% in terms of, I think you said unemployment. Exactly. Now, if we look at like the distribution in terms of gains in employment, in terms of industry, public sector, no surprise because of the government that's in right now. So public sector is big. You've got admin support and managerial support. You've got finance and insurance. You've got education as well. I think there may be one more, arts as well. So there's 5 that are gaining in employment. Everything else in terms of industries is not doing as great. And so I say this to say, if you understand what the market is saying, then you get a better understanding of what opportunities are out there. Then the next stage is, okay, cool. I know what industries are open. What kind of contracts are available? Am I going for a procurement? Is there going to be a tendering process? Am I going to be going via an agency where I'm applying like any other job, but there may be outside or inside roles available? Am I speaking to recruiters? Am I speaking to old colleagues? Am I doing cold calls? Am I doing freelance contracting where actually I'm going to go on marketplaces or go on Upwork and try and work that out? So there's variety. It's not just a simple thing. This is why I say it's a mindset. So for me, I started off inside of IR35 for a while before I became outside of IR35. Now, I didn't necessarily go looking for it. It came to me, because they were looking for my expertise. And so that has given me an opportunity to extend my contract, make a few opportunities here and there. Because the game, as you probably know already, is if you provide value, they want to keep you. The only time they don't want to keep you and you're valuable is if they don't have the money. And something like a general election happened, and that's what happened to me. A general election happened. They had to let me go. 4.5 months. I was kind of like building and changing my sort of like portfolio, my CV, all of that kind of stuff there, developed a framework, and I was able to get an outside of IR35 contract as a program manager. So it's mindset for me. I think if you're about this contracting life, it's about deciding that you want a certain autonomy or you want a certain lifestyle. You're willing to have both the pros and the cons. Because it may sound like, he's making 6 figures, X, Y, and Z. Yeah, great, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But in the same vein, there are times where actually you don't even know if you're going to get a contract again. You're always going to feel like that.
That's what would scare me.
That doesn't go away. And so the mentality has to be like strong. It's not for the faint-hearted. And so if you're on it and you're ready to be about that life because you're trying to create a different type of career, then contracting is for you. But if you're not sure, then don't do contracting. I don't think contracting is the only path. I think it's a path that enables you to achieve some life goals quicker.
So one thing that I picked up on when you were speaking there is you started off inside, went to the outside.
Yeah.
Can you alternate between the two?
Great question. So with outside of IR35, and before I even say this, I'm not an accountant. I'm not a financial advisor. If you want any, if you want proper advice, an accountant will know. But what I would say is, if you are inside, you can do outside roles. Now, there is a cultural aspect where it's like, oh, that's not favorable. You know, people don't like to know X, Y, and Z, but it's possible. You can do that. Why? Because of the tax. So when it comes to being taxed like an employee, such as PAYE, you have to be under one type of PAYE contract. But when it comes to your limited company, you can have as many contracts as you want. Because what are one of the rules that stipulate you as an outside IR35 contractor? You can subcontract. So it doesn't have to be you doing it. It could be somebody else. Now, here's the thing. Depending on the industry that you're in, there are some people who bring in outside of IR35 contractors, but they kind of want an inside IR35 contractor who can kind of play by their rules and all that kind of stuff there. This is why I'm saying it's all about mindset. It has to be about mindset. You need to understand the game, i.e., what camp you sit in. You need to understand the market. And you need to understand what you're prepared to do in terms of your boundaries. Hopefully that makes sense, because I'm saying a lot here, but...
It does make sense. It's really interesting. And you have me thinking at the same time about other things that I want to talk about. So you're talking about mindset. So let's talk about, off the back of that mindset, your worth. How do you define a good rate?
That's a great question.
How do I say to someone, ladies and gentlemen, I am worth £500 a day, maybe £1,000 a day.
Yeah.
You've offered me $350. How dare you? That's disrespectful.
Yeah, I hear you.
How do you quantify the deliverables?
Yes, great questions. So number one, it depends on what type of contract you're doing. So I spoke about inside, I spoke about outside, I spoke about freelance contracts, I spoke about procurement, et cetera, et cetera. Let's focus on inside and outside because it's the easiest. So the first thing you can do is check the market, see what is being offered on the market, okay? So you go onto something like CV Library or JobServe or whatever it may be, and you check to see what they're offering. And you do a good pool size. Look for 20 roles, 50 roles if you really want to, but 20 should be enough. And see if there's a pattern and if there's a theme. So that's the first thing you do. The second thing you can do is to speak to other contractors and ask for their rate. Now, I'm going to say 7, 8 times out of 10, they're happy to tell you a rate because contractors get it. You know, you're both you're both grinding, you both understand the hardship, but the winning times as well. So it's like we all kind of want to help each other. See what they're offering. So that's another thing you can do. The third thing you can do, and I kind of did all of these things, is when you're offered a contract and they say to you, what's your rate? Because they're always going to ask you, what's your rate? Never take an hourly rate, daily rate at least. Okay, never hourly. They'll say to you, what day rate do you want? Or what rate do you want? So you respond by saying, what's your budget?
That's so interesting. Sorry to disturb you there, but I've seen on LinkedIn hourly rates quite a lot recently. So
interesting.
Very interesting that you said that.
I'll never take an hourly rate. Nah.
Why?
Day rate. Because I came in based on providing a certain value stack as opposed to a prescriptive set of deliverables. Leave me to do the job. Don't try to monitor me based on hourly rates X, Y, and Z. Do you understand?
I'm with you. It's almost like a means of micromanagement. That's what
in some ways, yeah.
I paid you for 5 hours of work and nothing's done.
Exactly. And look, I'll be real with you. Especially within the outside space, there could be times where you're working like a dog, 100%. And there are other times where it's more relaxed. It's hard to measure that. And so the way, I'll come back to the answer, but the way to manage that is to essentially track your activity. This is something that a consultant program director taught me recently, actually.
How? How do you do that?
It's very simple. So you use a tool like Toggl as an example, Toggl, and you can either get it to track your activity based on software that pops up on your computer, or you can, at the end of each day or each week, write what you did in the first half of the day and write down what you've done for the second half of the day. It could be very simple stuff. So it could be developing draft report for board, I don't know, researching market opportunities for X, Y, and Z, replying to emails. It could be anything. But you do that, and that gives you an idea of how you've apportioned your time. And that then at the end of the month or end of the week, just send that to the hiring manager or the end client. So they are clear and you're clear what you've done. And they might not even ask for that. But at least it's almost like an insurance thing. But down the line, what ends up happening is you can throw that into AI and AI can give you a great idea of the stuff you've done. So you never forget it, because we can easily forget what we've done sometimes. But anyway, coming back to the response, essentially, if you ask them what the budget is, 10 times out of 10 for me at least anyway, they'll tell you. They'll tell you. They'll say, oh, it's anywhere between 500 and 700. Okay, I want 700. What are they going to say? What are they going to say? They've come to me. They've seen my CV. They've seen my experience. They've asked me the questions. Why wouldn't I get 700? And actually, if they did say anything, I'd say, I want 700. And then if they came back and said something else, then I would have to consider, okay, based on the market, is it sensible for me to be bougie right now? Or do I have to just give it up? And I wouldn't say, if that happens to me, I wouldn't say I'm always bougie. It depends on the market. So right now, I'm not being bougie. I have a standard, but I won't be bougie to the end. So the range gives you an idea, and then you can calculate what you're willing to do.
Interesting. So how do you, when is the right time?
Okay.
When is the right time to say, I'm going to be a contractor? I actually watched one of your videos when you almost encouraged people who are quite early on in their career and said, hey, take that leap of faith. So talk to me about where different people, for our audience, where they sit on that spectrum of experience within their sector.
Yeah.
When is it your time?
Yeah, I hear it. So, okay, there's going to be different people listening to this. So,
and can I just add to that? Sorry.
Go ahead.
Does it depend on the sector too? And I'm going to give an example of something around that.
Okay, cool. So let's just say you are a student. You've just graduated. You're between 20, 25, let's say. Should you jump into contracting? You could jump into contracting, but know that you're not going to be, doing some high flying job. Probably not. It's probably going to be an officer role. It's probably going to be a support role. It's probably going to be something centered around that. Now, will you be making quite a lot of money relative to what you were doing before? Probably. Yeah, you would. But it would mean that your sole goal is to make sure that you learn as much as possible. You get the accreditation, certifications or qualifications or experience, and package it in such a way that takes you to the next level. And I know friends who know people who have done this. And actually, they've just been a career contractor since their early 20s. So it's possible. I mean, the other type of version of that, what a lot of young adults are doing is becoming a graduate consultant. It's the same thing. They do the same thing. The difference is the consultant just has the brand. They have the company that backs them with education, and they have a safer space. But as a contractor, you're just doing this from scratch. So it's possible, and I would still encourage it, but I recognize it's not a deep need. Now, if you're between 25 to, let's say, mid-30, and to answer your question, you're in the right market, and this is where you have to do some market research, I would encourage it. If you've got, I say 5 to 10 years, but 10 years is solid. got 10 years plus. I'm not saying 5 years plus, it's not, but 10 years solid makes more sense. And you're a domain expert. You understand how to do your thing with your eyes closed. You could be industry specific or just what they call a process consultant. Then try it out. But try out with the caveat that you understand your level of risk. So, are you at home? Do you have savings? Are you okay not to have savings? Are you willing to take that risk? Do you know people you can talk to? Are you quite a person who is able to network, have conversations, have more conversations? Are you relentless with your pursuits and not afraid to do the same thing every day again and again and again until you get a result? You have to be willing to try. And so I would say, yes, go for it in that instance. Now, if you are somebody who is older and you have, I guess, more securities backed, then yeah, I see a lot of contractors within that space. And actually, they're more consultant-esque because they've got a deep network and they understand the industry extremely well. And so it's more conversations with them, way more conversations as opposed to just applying direct to the market. But those who are applying direct to the market, who have less of those deep networks, I see aren't afforded the same opportunities. I can see it. Now, there are instances where people are like, I have a mortgage, I have kids, X, Y, and Z. But this is where your level of risk needs to be managed. And only you can decide that. Again, I have a friend who has a friend who's in a marriage. Yeah, that's what it's called. I forgot for a second. And they're both contractors. And they are making, and they're both, I think one's in finance, one's in law. They are making bank. Like it's stupid.
That, my friends, is how you go to Sandals every single year. Sandals, baby.
Come on. So it works for them because they've made a decision. That's the lifestyle they're willing to make. And actually, their sort of like their assets and their savings is extremely healthy. So your level of risk, your understanding of the market, and your experience will determine and shape whether contracting is suitable for you or not. I mean, I could talk more, but I'm going to let you come in and then I'll come in again.
No, it's interesting you say that. So what about if you are in that middle earners within the United Kingdom?
Yeah.
They're being squeezed.
100%.
If you're in that kind of 50 to 70K bracket, it's rough.
Yeah.
So I always thought of it, looking at it from a monetary bracket value.
Okay.
If you're now saying, right, I think I could tiptoe towards the 100K mark.
Yeah.
If I become a contractor.
Yeah.
Is that a sensible time when to do it?
Mm.
If you are really at the top end of the game, so you already are a team lead or head of, is that a good time to do it? Or are you better off just saying, do you know what, I'm going to take the 110 to 130K per year contract? Or does it almost depend on the industry? So I know in terms of the growth figures released today, the UK grew by 0.3%, down from 0.7%. But in relative terms, it's still not that bad. But for example, it did say that construction was up 1.2% GDP. And IT services, I don't have the exact figure, but it was healthy. So for example, some industries are struggling, some are booming. And what I do notice is that I do think there's a lot more roles that are being published with fixed term contracts.
Yes.
There's a lot more of that.
100%.
Especially since April.
Yeah.
But then I think to myself as well, maybe is this the right time maybe to jump into the public sector? Because we know that they want to do, like in the NHS, digital transformations, a very big thing at the moment. There are quite a lot of roles that are saying, hey, we're behind with our reporting. Do you have, I don't know, I'm just relating to like analytics, Power BI skills, SQL, maybe it's essential or preferred if you have some Python skills. Hey, we'll give you a contractor role. There are loads of those going about. But then it seems like that doesn't seem to ring true for actual clinicians who are like resident doctors, also in the United Kingdom as junior doctors. They're striking, saying, we want more. So I'm just trying to gauge for the different audiences.
Yeah.
How do we make that decision.
Yeah.
Can you shed some more light on this?
Yeah. So I see this in a number of ways. The first thing is, what is your goal? Despite everything that is happening right now, what goal do you have? And if you're clear about your goal and you're convicted with your goal and you've done enough research, which I'm going to talk on in a second, then stick with the goal. But don't be a person who moves back and forth. Stick with it. The second thing to say is the market, as we know, is dependent upon geopolitics, the financial and economic cycles, the political cycles, all of that kind of stuff there. So for example, between, I would say January to March, you start to see more roles popping up. March to like May is booming. May to like summer holiday is dying because everyone's on holiday. September starts to pick up a little bit mid-September. Then up until like mid-December, it's okay. And then it dies again for Christmas. Makes sense because it's based on people's activity. If we look at the left versus the right in terms of political domains, there is going to be the left narrative typically is more public sector heavy, more focused on the system, et cetera, et cetera. So it makes sense why industries are more focused on that within the UK right now. On the other side, the opportunities are different. And so it looks different. And so it feels a bit more entrepreneurial by nature. So there's that to think about. Then you've got the geopolitics of everything, which is affecting energy, inflation, et cetera, et cetera. So with all that stuff, it creates opportunity and challenge. So you have to look at all of that and then decide with your goal and your experience, what is sensible for me to do? And actually, do I care about sensible? Am I being unreasonable in this instance? And this is why I said at the beginning, mindset is so fundamental here. Now, you have to have, and I can't tell you how you measure this, only you will know, but you have to have a healthy and sometimes unhealthy dose of delusion. If you're gonna work for yourself in any capacity, you just have to, because it's not the norm. You're doing something that is different by the very nature of what you're doing, because not most people do it. And so if everything stacks up for you, go for it, try it, test it out. You know, what I usually say to people is if you are working a 9 to 5 and you are worried and concerned, the way to think about this is research all of that stuff I spoke about for your specific domains. Speak to a recruiter who is versed in contracting and understands the landscape. Ask them, what does the landscape look like for you? Also speak to other contractors and understand what it's been like for them. And also understand your leaving policy. So how much time do you have to leave? What do you need to do in order to honor that? Can you negotiate with your line manager? When I first got into contracting, I spoke to before I got into it, I spoke to my line manager and said, I'm going to pursue this career path. And I said to them, is it possible that you allow me to hang about until I find something? I didn't know if she was going to say yes or no, but she said, yeah, that's fine.
It's a testament to your work.
Maybe it is, but the fact that I asked meant that I was enabled to do what I'm doing today, you know? So in order to really come full circle with your question, it comes down to your goal. It comes down to the Chrono system and how you investigate that Chrono system. So the different things. So you have a northern star to take action, you know?
There's something that I picked up on your channel.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
The Contractor Checklist.
Oh, come on. Yeah.
I feel like this is a perfect time to talk about that now.
Okay.
Tell me a little bit more, our viewers, about this, the
Yeah.
checklist. Without giving away too much, because listen, it is a fantastic product, guys. You do need to, I encourage you to go onto Michael's website and to go onto his channel and listen to some stuff. There's some fantastic material. Tell me about this, because you are someone who very much likes systems and frameworks. You stress this a lot. And this is one that really I thought, this is great. We must talk about.
To be fair to you, this is kind of a cop-out, but we've kind of covered some elements of it in some ways. Because it starts off with understanding what is contracting. You have to start with that and understanding the landscape and understanding the difference between inside and outside. Then there is an element of making sure that, again, like I said before, you check the market, you speak to the right people, you speak to different colleagues, et cetera, all of that kind of jazz. Then it comes down to, I would say, playing the numbers game. The numbers game being making those conversations, going to those events, applying for different roles, et cetera. And without giving too much, you can go and download it, guys.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Make sure to check it out under one of my videos.
Fantastic. Contracting to me sounds like you need to have lots of different skills. And that sounds like a really perfect time to talk about the portfolio career, which I actually think that Michael should copyright, to be honest, because
it's definitely not me.
Honestly, I've not heard anyone talk about this until I started listening to your material. Talk to us about what is the portfolio career and how do we build it?
Okay, great question. So a portfolio career is a career that you build. But think of it like this. With any sort of investment, let's say an index fund, an exchange traded fund, all of that kind of stuff there, it's made up of a basket of things that contribute to growth. And so in this instance, it's recognizing that we're in a time right now where there are different things that contribute to, number one, our sense of identity, but number two, our pocket. And so the portfolio career is like any other career, but it's recognizing that you have ownership and power. That's the difference. This is why it always comes back to mindset. And you'll see in my channel, I talk about having the consultant mindset, because that mindset enables you to understand that you can go for things that the standard employee may not necessarily go for. It helps you understand that you need to think about things strategically. It helps you understand that you have unique value to solve specific types of problems for an end client or clients. It understands that you have frameworks, processes, and methodologies that are valuable to the marketplace. And so that isn't just attributed to one group of people or whatever it may be. There's opportunity in various different ways. And so it's understanding that actually, I don't have to just do this 9 to 5, or I don't have to just do this contract. There are other things that I can do as well. Now, this is not me advocating being a multi-potentialite or multifaceted. We hear this all the time and, oh, I was born to do all these different things. We know that already. We still have to prioritize and decide. And obviously, me being me who I am, I have a framework for that, which I can talk about. I'll talk about that
honestly, Mike kills me. He hasn't missed a trick. I'm telling you. Soon he's going to start telling us, you know what, if you got a hybrid car, you want EV charging? I got something for you.
Hey, listen. Do you know what? But
no. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry.
That's all good. It's all good. The point being made is like, it's understanding your skill sets, your experiences, and your expertise, and making sure that you maximize your growth potential, whether that is money, well-being, sense of purpose, whatever it is. So that essentially is what the portfolio career describes.
So in building your portfolio career, you must need to build a strong presence, right?
Yes.
And that's about the 4 C's.
Yeah.
I picked this up from your channel again, and this was really a great point, and this really made me think, because don't get me wrong, I do think nowadays that, listen, attention is currency, and being visible is very, very important, but it's the right type of attention, okay? And I think we often think that when there's a lot about personal branding, we just mean social media. But I use the word now presence because of you, because that's just one component of the cake.
Yes.
As you described it, your 4 C's. I personally like chocolate.
Yeah.
But to tell us more a little bit about how you build a strong presence.
Yeah.
Because if you ever go on Michael's website, his presence is very, very prominent. It's slick, tidy, you know? As soon as you go on there, you want a coaching call, you can find it. You want a framework, you can buy it. You want a podcast, you can listen to it. Audio, video. So that to me was a strong presence. But how did you build this? How did you come up with the concept of the 4 C's?
Yeah, so I'm not going to lie to you. So I took the initial 4 C's from somebody called Rhonda Swan, I believe. And it was at an event I went to by a guy called John Pemberthy in the UK. And she spoke about, I believe it was clear message, it was consistency, it was credibility, and there was another C as well. And I adapted it for myself. I adapted it. And actually, I think it's 7 C's now. Wow. As opposed to 4. Because I'm always thinking, like, how can I break my process or framework apart? You know? But essentially, number one, it starts with context. And actually, context is important, like I said before, so I'm not going to get into that again. The second C is contract. Now, that sounds weird. How does that link to a personal brand? Well, we're all in a contract. Whether you're permanent, not permanent, etc., there is an exchange of work being done where someone signs on a dotted line, you've got to do some work in exchange for money. And so contract is really important because that enables you to stack the skills and develop the competencies in order for you to, I guess, grow. Because really, on a basic level, and this may not ring true for everyone, but competence equals confidence. And that comes from experience. And so with that in mind, we've seen earlier generations who are trying to just be confident, but they lack the competence. And we're seeing a epidemic of what we're calling or what they're calling mental health issues, etc. Now, I'm not displacing real conditions, etc. But what I am highlighting is that there's a gap. And that gap is filled with competence. And that takes time, patience, and energy. This is why I said 10 years when it comes to, deciding to jump in. So contract is another thing. Build good experiences within your chosen field. Now, once you have context, once you have contracts, there's cash. You want to be building reserves because you are thinking like a portfolio careerist. You're not going to stay in this one position forever. You want to invest in the right things. You want to have a buffer just in case you want to risk it and be a contractor or a freelancer, whatever it may be. Start building cash reserves. You can follow other examples online in terms of how to do that. Then after cash, so before I get onto that, so that's known as the foundation. That's known as the core, okay? You have to do that. Even if you don't build a portfolio career, everyone's doing that in some way, shape or form. Whether they're doing it well, whether they're doing it bad, they're doing it, okay? So the next phase or bit is growth. And growth is defined by these two different things. So the first one is content. So content is your opportunity to start talking about your competence. This is where you start getting market validation. This is where you start getting people message you in your DMs and all of this kind of stuff. And people
That was me, guys. Yeah. That was me. Just so you know, that was me. Hey, Mike, man, I love your channel. What you do? Can you make me be cool like you? That was me, guys.
No, don't even gas me like that. So with content, what's really important with content, and I did a 90-day challenge at the beginning of this year. I think it was February to whatever.
Yes, I saw that you did the review on.
Yeah, it was revealing. But I guess what I want to say to that is what made it work for me is number one, context. Number two, contract, experience, all of that kind of stuff. Then number three, speaking to my audience and understanding clearly what they want. Number four, being clear about their problems. Number five, marketing to them in such a way where I'm using their language. And number six, throwing consistency out there so that they see me again and again and again and again. And actually, they can't help but comment or engage or message me or whatever it may be. Because I have the sort of market that likes to watch behind, but doesn't necessarily always like to engage. I've learned that the hard way. And so the numbers game draws them in even more so because they feel like they're developing a relationship with me. So that's under content. And so once you start to build almost like a pressure to get to the next stage, which is coach, that's when you start taking on more opportunities. Now, coach could mean advisor. It could mean freelancing. It could mean consult. It could mean a whole bunch of stuff, but it's different to your typical contracting setup. It could be a B2C setup, literally. And so this is where you start seeing communities start to be built, et cetera, et cetera. The next stage that whole stage, those two stages, content and coach, is the growth phase. The final phase, if you want to call it that, is what I call the scaling phase or the learning phase. And this is where number one, you start to codify what you've learned. What do I mean by that? You basically digitize your process either in the form of some sort of course or SaaS product, okay? A micro SaaS, a big SaaS, whatever it may be. So SaaS being software as a service. But the point being is digitized, because what you're trying to do is create leverage and create more opportunities to go and do some other stuff if you want to do that. And so once you start to codify, you're going to debug this, that, X, Y, and Z, you do business stuff, but really you go to the final boss, which is CEO, because we're trying to be CEOs of our life.
Amen.
Do you know what I mean?
Amen.
And so, going from, contract to CEO is a step. It's a step. And actually, the argument could be made that you're learning the CEO thing as you go.
Because there's fewer, as you go up the ladder, there's fewer roles.
Correct.
And people always say, and it's interesting, you can get to managerial level. Yeah, you'll get there.
Yeah.
You allow you through the door. When you start talking about VP, associate, director, CEO,
calm down.
Okay.
Yeah,
slow down now. Not too sure.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to carve out your own path, your own journey.
100%.
Sure.
100%. And I feel like we're hearing so much about how bad the UK is. I've been definitely a person saying this. Oh, the UK is this, the UK is that, blah, blah, blah. But you know what? As terrible as it feels for many of us, in the same vein, there has to be an opposite reaction, in a sense that what are we doing about it? Many of us are not going to leave. A lot of us are crying and say, oh, I'm going to go to Dubai. Go then. Go to Dubai. I've said it myself. Many of you are not going to go to Dubai. So if you're not going to go to Dubai, what are you going to do about your situation now? You're either going to stay in your 9 to 5, which is perfectly fine, or you're going to do something risky. And if you're going to do something risky, this is where you need to commit to a cause. I always say this, commit to a cause. Commitment defines discipline. Cause is rendering meaning. This is what we've been discussing this whole time. So if you have a sense of discipline, i.e. routine or whatever it may be against the goal, and you have a deep-seated meaning because you don't want to live the life you lived before, that context that I was talking about, then you'll commit to a cause. And I'm not saying this is easy, but it's nicer to hear inspiring, encouraging, motivational stuff, because in some ways, sometimes it unlocks you to create innovation and creativity, rather than seeing the homogenization that we see that has been produced from social media, AI, a Pollyanna effect, echo chambers, all of that kind of stuff there. So yeah, that's how I think about it. But yeah, coming back to what you're saying, I do this all the time. I go, ooh, and then I come back. But essentially, that is my 7-step framework for developing your personal brand, but also building a good portfolio career, for sure. That was a masterclass in itself.
Wow. Fantastic. Really powerful stuff there. And you touched on something there about, if we're not going to leave, you need to do something about it. Growth, innovation, AI. And we know you like AI, Mike. Yeah. So talk to me about AI. I mean, I had an internal training actually over the past couple of days on how we can really utilize Copilot. I mainly use ChatGPT.
Fair enough.
I have my subscription there. Works very well for me. But now we're seeing them being integrated into workplace systems. And the trainer I had today is like a separation between using it on the web and work. You can literally toggle on and off, and it can go through your emails and scan documents. I've heard you talk about how we should be using AI as leverage.
Yes.
Tell us more about that.
Yeah. So first of all, I use AI a lot within my space. And what allows me to use it confidently is because I'm a process expert. What do I mean by that? I'm a program management professional. I am MSP trained. I'm change management trained. I'm also coach and mentoring trained as well. So I say that to say that it enables me to engineer very good prompts within my domain and expertise. And so typical things that I use is Gemini Pro. I love Gemini. This is Google's generative AI. I prefer to use that because of the way it spits out information back to me. I use ChatGPT for more technical things. So processes, understanding how to debug something, etc., etc. I use, there's a tool called Blue Dot that I use, which is great for minute taking and actually using the AI within it to understand what happened in meetings, generating actions, etc., etc. That's been a game changer. There's also, I'm sort of diving into the whole automation thing. So currently right now, and this is for my own sort of like freelance stuff, I have a virtual assistant and a volunteer who is helping me build mastery in my business at the moment. And so I'm understanding how like what their SOPs are and everything else. So we've built those out. And now we're trying to build automations around those different SOPs so that those roles can be replaced. And then when I say roles, I mean those tasks, and they can do higher function stuff with me. So I'm always thinking about how to get to the next step, but I've recognized that that's not possible if you don't understand your area. You have to understand your area, and you have to be a domain expert in that way before AI becomes something that you utilize. And then you combine that with automation as well. So it's not even just AI, it's AI plus automation, which is what we're hearing in terms of agents and all that kind of stuff there. That's where the real game changer is, the agentic tools. And so we haven't truly seen that within the workplace yet. But what we will start to see, and I'm sure there are consultancies that have this, they are developing their own, let's say, microservices or applications where they've connected these agentic tools behind their software to produce reports or whatever it may be. So that's kind of like the next step, but that will take some time for me personally.
I always thought that you kind of stuck to maybe one tool. So I personally, I've never thought of it the way that you broke it down in terms of, okay, maybe you're going to use ChatGPT for maybe some advanced reasoning, some coding stuff, but Gemini is maybe better in terms of feedback. I didn't actually see how the different AI tools out there, DeepSeek maybe have different unique, how their USP is set out. So that's something really interesting that you said to me. And also, is it called Blue Dot?
Blue Dot, yes.
Yeah, Blue Dot I'm downloading tonight, guys. I never heard of this one, but...
Not many people have. I've kept that hush-hush.
This one, there's my service. Do you know what? I might not even use that for work. I don't deserve that.
Yeah, I mean, there's many like Blue Dot now, but Blue Dot was released at a time where there were no other tools out there like it, you know, so... It was revolutionary at the time, but I know there are others popping up now. So yeah, check out Blue Dot, but also see if there are any better alternatives that I may have missed.
Do you know what, guys? Just book a call. Book in. Book in. He's given us enough gems, enough teasers there to say, do you know what? Listen, go and learn more. And I strongly advise you to, because having a mentor, having someone to bounce off ideas, jokes aside, is really key. So no, that is fantastic. Mike, is there anything else that you want to say before we close off the conversation?
Yeah, do you know what? I fundamentally want people to believe in themselves. That's what I want. And I'm a believer that you can't just rely on a system. The system you should be relying on is your own. That's it. And so if you don't understand what system you have, learn to understand what that is. In other words, understand what your core values are, what your means values are, what your ends values are. Understand your sense of purpose. You get a sense of what your direction is before you start saying, oh, I want to be a contractor. I want to be this. I want to be that. Life is colorful and dynamic by nature. And so with that in mind, when you understand what you're looking for, despite your fears, despite not knowing, then actually that's powerful because there is an opportunity to create something. And that's the gift that we've been given, the ability to create. So that's it. Yeah, that's pretty much what I want to say. Outside of that, subscribe to my YouTube channel.
Very important, guys.
Book a consultation if you want.
Hey, pick up that phone.
And no, all jokes aside, like, I might be starting a community, but I want to get a sense for demand first before I do that. So yeah, if anyone's watching this and you'd be interested in something like that, let me know. Just contact me.
And where can people find you, reach out to you? Can you please just outline that for anyone around the world who may be interested?
Yeah, so I'm big on YouTube. I post at least weekly. I might be doing another 90-day challenge. I'm not sure. LinkedIn is where most people contact me. I try to get back to you, but my inbox is inboxing.
He does get back to you because that's why we're here now. So it happens, guys. Yeah. It does happen.
I'm on Instagram, but it's just repurposing stuff, if I'm honest with you. And I'm playing around with TikTok. But the main two are LinkedIn and YouTube, if I'm honest. Yeah.
Fantastic. Mike, thank you for your time today. I really appreciate you popping into the studio. You have given us a huge amount of insight and gems into how we can really take things to the next level in our career. And the thing that really stands out to me is you talking about mindset and growth. Like I said at the beginning, you're somebody who really moves with purpose and intent. And it really shows with all the success and achievements that you have had and where you're going in the future. So once again, thank you. Guys, I hope you enjoyed that episode today. I'm quite frankly blown away. There's so much for us to go away and process. And I guess the main thing to really take home here is that the world, the workplace, life, we're going through change. And you have to adapt. That's the key here. You can't stay static. You can't stand still because the world isn't standing still. And even though we are complaining or around the world, there are various different things going on. And we do appreciate that and things that obviously we can't discuss. There is hope. Just stick at it. Find a way. Guys, thanks for your time. And remember, if you did like this episode, please do hit the like button. Tell us what you think in the comments as well. Tell us what you think and tell us what you'd like to see next. Until next time, goodbye.